Okay, so now you've just watched the killer business letter, so we're going to go now and look at emails. Now, emails are a blessing and a curse at the same time. Emails are, by their very nature, a lot more informal. However, do not lose your mind. Do actually have the same type of rules which you have for a letter. You need to set the letter and the email out correctly with a opening paragraph, dear Mr. or dear Paul, or do whatever. Do the same thing. In the regarding what the subject is, that will actually be taken care in your subject box. Please make sure you fill in the subject box, because otherwise they will not have a clue what the email is about, and when you get lots of emails, trying to put it into some context is really difficult. Just because the email is a lot more of a casual way of communicating a message, do not get sucked into the trap of tiny word bites. I'll give you an example of which I gave my business students when I taught them. Somebody does a really good job. They put in some overtime, they work the weekend, so they've emailed the boss saying, worked over the weekend, put in a lot of overtime. The boss writes back, don't come in Monday. Now, don't come in Monday can mean one or two things. It can either be, well done, you're doing a really good job, so take some time off in lieu, fantastic, or it could be, actually, don't come in on Monday because you're fired. That, without any surrounding context, can actually be very confusing. The same thing as if then you suddenly put a load of exclamation marks or whatever. It's very confusing, and an email can actually start a complete tidal wave of emotion going backwards and forwards. So be careful to actually, if you are going to keep it brief, at least put context with it as well. Otherwise, you'll be starting a ping pong of emails and it will take far longer and your communication goes up in smoke again. Number 3, resist the immediate knee-jerk response to an email. Now, I think every one of us has fallen into this trap that you get an email and you don't like what it says, you're like, right, type. It's all emotional, that reply, so therefore it's going to be an emotional reply you're sending out to the world, and that person reading it is also going to have that same response, and what you suddenly do is you start building the ante, and actually the communication starts to suffer, it goes out the window. So in the olden days, before email, where you had faxes and etc., what you used to do is if you got a letter, then you would actually get that letter, you read it, you wouldn't like it, you would write it, or you dictate a response to it. It would then take mostly half a day to a day for that letter to recycle and come back to you. By that time, you've cooled down a bit, and actually you may think, oh, this is a bit harsh now, maybe I don't want to actually send that out, or maybe there's been other correspondence arrive which actually puts that initial communication into context. So be careful, do not fall into the trap of actually just banging off a response straight away. Sit on it, even if you type it to get the frustration out, just put it in your drafts box, do something else, then come back to it, and you may actually find that a phone call may come in or something else may come in where actually you never send it in the first place. It's a really important thing to maintain relationships on a written basis, to actually have that time to pause. Unfortunately, with the world getting faster and faster and faster, this is actually being contracted. Now with tweets and Twitter, every day there is people sending out silly Twitters and tweets and emails and then instantly regretting. It's so much harder to go and apologize and backpedal for that silliness, and it just makes you look unprofessional. So just take the moment. If in fact everything is still as raw as you first wrote it, fine, but just take the chance to read it again. Next point is keep a printed list of emails. When emails are flying backwards and forwards thick and fast, it's very difficult to stay on top of things. But as a lawyer, we had to make sure that everything we had in our file was a written record of what was going on. A paper trail. A paper trail is super important. In letters, you usually acknowledge a paper trail by saying, thank you for your letter of, or further to the conversation we had. So you're actually tying in the paperwork into a written form. Same thing with email. You always can say, following our earlier email this morning, and if there's a date and there's a time, then that's great. When at the end of that you need to print off the whole list, so actually that can go in the file, so you've got a written record, because it's amazing what happens is that people send things in email and then forget that they've actually agreed to something or said something. So you may need that in future, just to actually say, look, we've already discussed this is what we agreed on this day. So it's very important to keep the record of your correspondence. And finally, proofread. Again, the same lesson which applied to the business letters. So what I mean on this is language, obviously spellings, etc. But more importantly, attachments. How many, all of us have done this, by mistake, I know, but you send an email, you've said there's an attachment, you send it off, there's no attachment there. So just take the moments to actually go through, make sure all the attachments are there, all the documentation you referred to, and take the chance to read it. Also, if it needs to give you cooling off time, it's a really good way of actually doing that. So that is my thoughts and my advice from my mistakes and also my good points of actually writing communications, whether it be letters or emails. Now it's your turn. Go write some killer letters and emails. See you next time on Business Made Simple.